A name I hadn't seen in quite a while popped up in my feed, Eric Dubay. He's a big flat earth guy, and he did a couple, at least a couple, one or two big documentaries that were super big back in the big conspiracy days of early YouTube. For some reason, a new video of his just popped up on my radar entitled Flat Earth is Stupid. I don't know if he went back on his philosophy, on his views of it all, but I thought we could dive in together, shall we? Let's go.
One of the most common phrases I have heard incessantly repeated by neophytes since reviving the International Flat Earth Research Society is, "Flat Earth is stupid." Even though it was historically the consensus cosmology among literally every ancient culture, in modern times, the concept of a flat Earth has become synonymous with stupidity. Calling someone a flat earther is now meant to insult their intelligence.
I do notice that too. It almost is seen as an insult. Flat Earth in particular has become the punching bag conspiracy. You know, it's almost like bottom feeder level. I mean, even Obama mentioned it. You know,
and carries the connotation of being incredibly ignorant.
Yeah.
But is this an accurate stereotype? Is the idea of a level, stationary Earth really the epitome of idiocy? And are people who promote it really so utterly unintelligent?
Right.
Modern mainstream science treats the...
That's actually a really good point, because to be fair, a lot of the conspiracy-minded individuals that I've come across in real life, and I've had a lot of enjoyable conversations about conspiracies and different concepts, but a lot of these people, they're really open-minded and they're really well-spoken and they're really just intelligent people. And not that the people opposing that aren't, showcasing these same traits, but it does seem to have a certain correlation where if you're a conspiracy nut, you almost always have... Maybe you have below IQ or above IQ. It's like there's no middle ground. It's like conspiracy nuts are either bonkers and just like way down on the IQ scale, or truly intelligent, enlightened beings and they're way up there. So I don't know. It's just wild world we live in, y'all.
Current conclusions of cosmology and astronomy as settled, set-in-stone subjects with little room for dissent. The heliocentric globe theory is never admitted in academia as being theoretical, but rather taken for granted as a cornerstone of modern scientific knowledge. If Earth is not a spinning ball revolving around the sun, however, then nearly the entirety of modern science and the majority of modern scientists are proven to be either frauds or fools. Therefore, questioning the shape of the Earth is the equivalent of scientific blasphemy, and flat earthers the equivalent of scientific heretics. Is this treatment truly warranted, though? Testing ideas, challenging assumptions, and furthering knowledge through evidence and critical scrutiny is...
This little comic here. Trust the science is the most anti-science statement ever. Questioning science is how you do science. And that's exactly it. I heard somebody talking about settled science the other day, and I literally had to find out what settled science was.
Settled science refers to scientific theories or principles that have been extensively tested and widely accepted by the scientific community. It's based on a large body of evidence and has been confirmed through repeated experimentation and observation. It's generally a good thing because it reflects our best understanding of the natural world. However, it's important to remember that science is always open to new evidence and discoveries, so even settled science can be revised if new, credible evidence arises.
I'm glad that GPT did at least put a little caveat at the end, but if something does come along to disprove the settled science, then we'll shift to the new settled science. I don't know. I understand the benefit of saving everybody time and hassle in accepting it. I get it. It does save a lot, and it does conserve a lot of resources everywhere in the process. But at the same time, it does dampen potential... it kind of does dampen or discourage potential outlier cases that do challenge the settled science. And to think that we understand things fully is a laughable concept to me. Maybe it's just my primitive mind, but I don't understand a lot of things, and I don't accept everything as people seem to think it is. Maybe I've just been exposed to too many conspiracies and just junk media in general, but I don't know. Let's see where this is going here. Sorry about that.
Is the very definition of the scientific method. Science encourages and requires dissent to clarify conclusions, and questioning established scientific norms is precisely how new discoveries are made. One of the forefathers of the heliocentric globe theory, Galileo himself, said, quote, "In the sciences, the authority of thousands of opinions is not worth as much as one tiny spark of reason in an individual man." In other words, science is not a democracy, and scientific authority is not derived from...
There's that quote I was talking about. We don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society. Yeah, he did say that. And like, why? Why? To me, it's just a strange thing to bring up. If it's such a silly notion, if it's so like condescendingly belittling to even bring it up. Oh, this is you petty flat earthers. Why even bring it up into the sphere of discussion? I don't understand that. Is it just me that finds that strange to bring these things up?
Majority opinion or expert decision, but rather from reason, evidence, and experiments. Globe defenders often deny or downplay the amount of legitimate criticism presented by skeptics, but it is undeniable that there are a large number of valid objections to the heliocentric globe theory. Casually denying something deemed stupid and deferring instead to expert opinions without doing your own due diligence in carefully considering all arguments commits two logical fallacies. Firstly, mocking, joking, or otherwise dismissing something as dumb without presenting a logical reason why commits the fallacy of appeal to ridicule. Secondly, blindly believing in something simply because all experts agree commits the fallacy of appeal to authority. When it comes to many supposed proofs of the heliocentric globe theory, such appeals to authority are often implicit without being readily recognized. For example, citing NASA images or astronauts' testimony as proof of a globe are not admissible as scientific evidence because they are not readily repeatable. The average person will never experience the frame of reference required to confirm or deny such claims.
This is making me think of the first time I met someone and I had a real discussion about flat Earth. I had researched it privately, but nobody in my life had ever really discussed conspiracies up until this point. Tyler, I'm sure he's doing his own thing, very successful, doing his own thing in life right now, but I remember the discussion. We were smoking on his couch in the second floor apartment in college. We were talking about, just accepting everything as is. And we were talking actually about how ridiculous it would be to think the Earth is flat. He asked me, he challenged me. He said, well, how do you know what's a globe? And I said, well, I mean, all the science points towards it, just all the same logical talking points. And he's like, well, have you ever seen the curve yourself? And I said, no. He said, well, have you ever been on a plane? Yeah. Did you see the curve there? No. Ever known anybody go to space? No. So how do you know? And I was just like, I don't. It had me aghast. Like, I can't prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's a globe. I can't prove I can't prove anything. It's such a vast thing. It's such a vast goal to accomplish and find out. But the point is, like, I couldn't prove it. And even though it's ridiculous to think, the Earth is flat, you can't disprove otherwise without invoking settled science. Essentially, we have to essentially go on faith in science, yes, but the concept of settled science kind of goes against the very nature of science. Like I said, let's keep going.
So quoting them as proof of a globe is invalid and unsound reasoning. In my experience, most people calling flat Earth stupid actually have no idea what the term flat Earth implies, or what claims flat earthers actually make. For instance, many of them make wild assumptions about some kind of disk world floating suspended in space, and ask asinine tongue-in-cheek questions like, where's the edge? What holds up the disk in space? Or why isn't there perpetual daylight everywhere on a flat Earth? Such comments show that these detractors have not done the slightest bit of research into the subject they are condemning, and thus reveal what they really find stupid are their own errant assumptions. By mixing their heliocentric outer space globe world indoctrination with false assumptions about what flat Earth actually means, they decide it must be dumb, and then close their minds to the possibility. Compare this with the average flat earther, all of whom received the exact same heliocentric globe education in school.
Right.
But rather than assuming an alternative cosmology must be stupid or impossible, remained open-minded enough to engage with the
We all agree that once you go flat, you can never go back.
material and learn a new perspective. Every flat earther I know fully believed the heliocentric globe theory taught at school and shown on television before doing their due diligence in researching the subject.
Right.
Only after reading several books, viewing a number of documentaries, and then going out to personally perform their own experiments, do most people begin to realize that Earth is not a spinning ball. In order to learn anything new, it is an essential skill to temporarily suspend disbelief while taking in alternative information. Far from stupid, this ability is actually a key mark of intelligence. As F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote, "The truest sign of intelligence is the ability to entertain two contradictory ideas simultaneously." And as Aristotle noted, it is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without immediately accepting or rejecting it. The majority of people calling flat Earth stupid have never read a book on the subject. If they had, and were humble and honest enough with themselves, they would be forced to admit that there are undeniably a large number of legitimate criticisms and unanswered questions surrounding the heliocentric globe theory. When I first began researching the subject myself, I was repeatedly surprised by the intelligence of the flat Earth authors and the cogency of their arguments. 19th century authors like Samuel Rowbotham, Thomas Winship, William Carpenter, Albert Smith, Lady Blunt, David Wardlaw Scott, and many others wrote extensively and convincingly on the subject, sparking a decades-long worldwide debate about the shape of the Earth around the turn of the century. Personally, I have an IQ of 143, graduated with honors from university with a double BA in philosophy and English, and am now a published author with books translated into 30 languages. Since writing my own books on the subject and interacting with thousands of readers, I have continued to be surprised at the high average intelligence of fellow flat earthers contacting me. Conversely, the average globe believers have continued to disappoint me with their constant unintelligent insults, snarky sarcasm, haughty hubris, errant assumptions, logical fallacies, lack of common sense, and closed-minded conclusions. Regardless of where you currently stand on the subject, we should all be able to agree that questioning science is quite literally how you do science. It is not stupid to challenge established scientific norms, and in fact, that is the only way scientific progress is ever made.
Dang, that was a really good video. It really doesn't matter how you feel about flat Earth. Obviously it's a very controversial conspiracy. It's wrapped up in so many layers of deception and built upon so much deception, really, that you can't tell what's real. Like you could have all the evidence in the world, and it's still, to me, I don't think I would be 100% proved in either direction. You know, I don't know what we're on. I don't know if this is even real right now. This might all be computer code. There's probably nobody on the other side of who watches this. Nobody actually watches this. I'm in my basement here. This isn't real. Anyway, that was a good video. We're going to go ahead and move on from this before we have too much of an existential breakdown. I want to thank you guys all so much for tuning in. You are always appreciated. Much, much love. Be sure to question everything, even this. This is all AI. You don't know it, but you now know. So now you can't not see it. Not see it. Anyway, all right, guys. I'm going to wrap it up here. Much love. I'll see you guys all next time. Cheers.